My name is Ethan Cole, and I work the night shift as a security guard at an abandoned textile mill outside Gary, Indiana. It's a quiet job, almost too quiet. My shift starts at 11 p.m. and ends at 7 in the morning, alone in a vast empty building where the machines no longer run, where the fluorescent lights flicker on and off down certain hallways, like they're trying to decide whether to give up entirely. When I first took the position a few months back, most of the workers had already cleared out. The mill had shut down for good. Bankruptcy, they said. And the only people left on payroll were security. I was the last one willing to stay through the final stretch. The place has a history. Rumors about the old owners, about what happened here years ago. But I'm not the kind of guy who buys into that stuff. At least, that's what I thought. The first few shifts were a blessing, honestly. Huge building, total silence, nobody breathing down my neck. I'd walk the floor, check the security monitors, run my rounds. Same routine every night. By the end of the second week, I'd gotten used to the cold, the darkness, the sound of wind threading through the broken windows, the distant hum of some old mechanism that still turned on its own without anyone touching it. The first 2 weeks passed without anything unusual. Then the third week hit. It was a particularly cold night, wind beating hard against the exterior walls, the whole structure groaning under the pressure. I was walking the main corridor doing my camera check when I noticed something on one of the monitors. Second floor, corner of the east wing, a figure. Standing perfectly still, facing the camera directly. It wasn't near any of the rooms I patrolled. It wasn't near any hallway that should have had anyone in it. The figure was tall, completely dark. The outline was blurry. I couldn't get a clean read on what I was looking at. I told myself it was a camera glitch, some artifact from the old equipment, but when I leaned in closer to the screen, the figure moved. One step forward, barely perceptible. My stomach dropped. I moved fast toward the stairwell, kept telling myself to stay calm. My footsteps echoed through the empty floor, and the air felt thicker than usual. Heavier, like the building was pressing in. When I reached the second floor, there was nothing. Just the echo of my own movement bouncing back at me. But something ran down my spine, a cold, crawling feeling. Like something in the dark was watching me from behind. I checked every room on that floor. Nothing. The figure was gone. I almost convinced myself it was exhaustion. Too many long nights, not enough sleep. But when I went back to the monitors, the figure was there again. Same spot, this time closer to the camera. That's when I knew I was not alone in that building. The figure on the monitor stayed perfectly still, watching me. It wasn't a technical error. It wasn't fatigue. It was real. I told myself it had to be a prank. Maybe someone else in the building, a trespasser, a vagrant. But when I pulled up the camera feeds for every entrance, I found something that made my blood go cold. Every single door was locked, deadbolted from the inside. Nobody could have gotten in. A cold sweat broke across my forehead as I walked back down the main corridor. Every step I took sounded louder than it should have, like the echo was following me instead of fading. When I reached the monitor again, the figure was gone. The mill, which had felt like total silence before, now had a different quality, a vibration, like something alive had returned to those dusty walls. I went back downstairs looking for anything to focus on. Nothing. No sound. No trace. Walking through the main corridor, the lights started to flicker. First one, then two, then all of them at once. The buzzing of the fluorescent tubes built into a sound I could feel in my back teeth. The air grew heavy, dense, like the building itself was breathing through its own walls. Then I heard footsteps, not mine. Slow, heavy, like someone walking very close to me, just out of sight. I froze. My heart was hammering. Each step got closer, coming from behind me. But when I spun around, there was no one there. The feeling wouldn't leave me. Something wanted me looking in the wrong direction, and then the footsteps stopped. The silence that filled in after was deeper than anything I'd felt in that building before. I moved fast toward the security office, the one place that always felt safe. The monitor was on, showing empty corridors like nothing was wrong. But when I looked closer at the screen, I saw something that stopped my heart. In the reflection on the monitor glass, behind me, the figure was standing there, clear as day. I spun around. Nobody. The fear climbing through me was something I'd never felt before, but what happened next put me completely out of commission. For one brief second, I saw its face. Pale, extremely thin, almost skeletal. The eyes were hollow, vacant, but they were locked on me with an intensity that felt like it went all the way through, like it was reading something I'd never said out loud. 1 second, that's all it lasted, but it was enough. I wasn't alone, and whatever was in that building wanted me to know it. I ran out of the security office without a plan. I just needed distance. The mill wasn't just a dark, empty building anymore. Something was inside it, something that shouldn't be there, something that had been following me. I went for the exits. They were locked. They'd always been locked. I was the one who locked them. But now it felt impossible to get out. The layout I'd memorized over weeks felt wrong. The corridors seemed to rearrange themselves. I moved through hallway after hallway looking for any way out, and the walls felt like they were drawing closer with every step. Then I heard a voice, soft, coming from everywhere at once. "You can't leave, Ethan." A whisper, but sharp as glass. My breathing came in short pulls. The darkness in the corridors seemed to wrap tighter around me. The voice came again, and this time the tone had shifted into something that felt like certainty. "We've been waiting for you." The echo died out. The air thickened further. It felt like time had stopped entirely. Every step I took seemed to land wrong, like the floor was tilting and the hallways stretched out ahead of me without end. How could a place this large feel this small? I felt surrounded, watched from every angle, and then I noticed something else. The shadows weren't just shadows anymore. Every dark corner seemed to shift, to breathe, the walls changing shape just at the edge of my vision. The old machinery, equipment that had been dead for years, began emitting a low hum, like something waking up from a long sleep. The figure appeared again, end of the corridor, standing in the weak flicker of the failing overhead lights, its pale face half lit, but this time it wasn't alone. There were more of them. Near invisible shapes grouping in the dark behind it, their outlines barely readable against the black. The air dropped another 10 degrees. I could see my own breath. "You can't run, Ethan." Deeper this time, like the voice was coming from inside the walls themselves. "You've only arrived at what we've always been waiting for. The cycle starts here." Desperation hit me like a wall. What did they want? Why was I here? I tried to run. My legs wouldn't cooperate. Every time I pushed forward, the floor beneath me felt like wet ice. My body sinking slightly with each step, the hallway pulling away from me like I was on a treadmill that wouldn't stop. One of the figures moved closer. It came through the shadows like it was made of them. I couldn't see it clearly, only felt its presence. What was left of its face was wrong, warped like a broken mask. And its eyes, those hollow, cold eyes staring into me like they could read every dark thought I'd ever buried. "It's too late to leave, Ethan." I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The mill seemed to swallow sound itself. Movement, will, everything. The shadows stretched long around me. The figure dissolved, leaving only a cold that settled into my spine and didn't move. Then the lights flickered one final time, And in that moment, I understood what had happened to me. I had been trapped in this building, in the same loop, the whole time. The shadows, the figures, the voice. It was the mill itself, alive, and not 1 second had passed since I started my shift. "You can't leave, Ethan." The voice had no echo now. It came from inside my own head. And then I understood completely. I wasn't a visitor in this place anymore. I was part of it. And with that thought, the corridor dissolved. The mill came apart, and all that remained was a cold, absolute darkness, closing in from every direction until there was nothing left at all.